Have you ever walked away from a seemingly ordinary conversation and felt like someone had vacuumed the life right out of you? As if your emotional batteries were yanked out, thrown on the floor, and stomped on. No argument, no overt negativity, just an interaction that left you hollowed out, inexplicably fatigued. Now think of the opposite experience. The rare moments when a conversation lights you up, where time seems to disappear, your thoughts become sharper, and you leave feeling more alive than when you arrived. It's as if the person across from you handed you a warm current of vitality instead of siphoning yours away. Why does this happen? Why do some people seem to nourish your inner world, while others leave you emotionally threadbare? This isn't just a matter of vibes or intuition. It's a phenomenon deeply rooted in the architecture of the human psyche. One of the most brilliant minds to explore this mystery was Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who devoted his life to decoding the unconscious forces that shape our experiences and relationships. His answer to this enigma reaches far beyond social dynamics. It reveals the hidden energy systems within your mind. Today, we're diving deep into Jung's teachings to uncover why some people drain your energy, others uplift it, and how to reclaim your vitality by understanding the unconscious patterns at play. To understand Jung's explanation, we have to start with a concept he called libido. No, not libido in the narrow sexual sense Freud popularized. For Jung, libido was a universal psychological energy, your internal life force. This psychic energy fuels everything: your thoughts, dreams, emotions, creativity, and relationships. Think of it as the electricity that animates your inner world. When this current flows freely and is well directed, you feel mentally and emotionally vibrant. But when it gets blocked, drained, or hijacked, exhaustion, anxiety, or even depression sets in. Jung believed that all human interactions are energetic exchanges. Every word, gesture, or silence transfers some quantity of this psychic energy between two people. When the exchange is reciprocal, you both feel energized. When it's imbalanced, when one person takes without giving, you feel depleted, even if the interaction seemed harmless on the surface. Think about your own relationships. Who leaves you feeling nourished? Who consistently leaves you feeling like you need to recover afterward? According to Jung, these are not subjective moods or personality mismatches. They're reflections of profound psychological mechanisms at work beneath your awareness. So what's actually happening in those draining encounters? Jung identified several psychological dynamics that explain why certain people sap your energy, often without realizing it. These forces aren't obvious, but once you spot them, you'll never unsee them. 1. Projection, the unconscious transfer of inner baggage. We all carry parts of ourselves we'd rather not deal with: insecurities, guilt, rage, envy, or shame. Instead of facing these head-on, we often shove them into the basement of our unconscious. But they don't stay buried. They leak out and attach themselves to others. That's projection. When someone refuses to confront their own flaws, they unconsciously project them onto you. You're not just talking to that person anymore. You're also holding their emotional baggage. Let's say someone is deeply insecure but unwilling to admit it. Instead, they constantly criticize your competence, micromanage your choices, or undermine your confidence. What's happening is more than insecurity. It's energetic displacement. You're carrying their inner turmoil for them. 2. Emotional contagion, the mind's invisible mirror. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt anxious without knowing why? Emotions are contagious, literally. Our brains are wired with mirror neurons that cause us to internalize the emotional states of others. When someone is vibrating with fear, bitterness, or resentment, your nervous system picks it up. Your body begins to mirror their chaos, even if your logical mind disagrees. That's why time spent with emotionally toxic individuals can leave you feeling like you've run a psychological marathon. 3. The shadow, the rejected self. In others, Jung's concept of the shadow is one of his most profound. It refers to the parts of yourself you refuse to see, the traits you disown because they clash with your self-image. If you see yourself as kind, your shadow might contain cruelty. If you pride yourself on logic, your shadow might be irrational. When someone hasn't integrated their shadow, it spills into every interaction in twisted, draining ways. Passive aggression, emotional manipulation, or subtle sabotage. You're left navigating not just their conscious words, but their unconscious chaos. It's like speaking to two people at once, one polite, the other snarling beneath the surface. Jung believed these draining patterns were not random. They followed recognizable archetypes. Let's meet a few you've probably encountered. The victim. Always the sufferer, never the solution seeker. They drown you in their problems, but recoil at your suggestions. They outsource responsibility while pulling you into an endless loop of rescue and frustration. The narcissist. A mirror-hungry soul who needs you to validate their greatness. They monopolize conversations, ignore your emotional cues, and take endlessly without reciprocation. Their inner emptiness becomes your burden to fill. The martyr. They give and give, but not freely. Every sacrifice comes with emotional strings. Guilt becomes their currency, and you're always in their debt. The manipulator. They twist your emotions with guilt, fear, or obligation. You never know where you stand because you're always trying to decode their hidden agenda. The general energy vampire. This one is less malicious and more chaotic. Their energy is so scattered, anxious, or melodramatic that just being near them feels like swimming in a whirlpool of static. All of these types share one thing: a fundamentally imbalanced exchange. They take more than they give, and often lack any awareness that they're doing it. Here's the hard truth Jung would want you to wrestle with. If these people keep showing up in your life, it's not a coincidence, it's a mirror. Your outer relationships often reflect your inner psychological terrain. If you haven't healed your emotional wounds, you may unconsciously attract people who reopen them, not because you enjoy suffering, but because your psyche is trying to resolve unfinished business. Were your parents emotionally unavailable? You might gravitate toward cold or dismissive partners. Are you afraid of anger? You might constantly deal with passive-aggressive co-workers. The psyche repeats patterns not for punishment, but in search of integration and healing. People-pleasing tendencies, weak boundaries, and lack of self-awareness create an open door for energy vampires to walk through. If you struggle to say no, suppress your own needs, or ignore your gut feelings, you're broadcasting to the world, "I won't stop you from draining me." Most importantly, Jung would say this: the traits that irritate you most in others often reflect what you've rejected in yourself. If neediness repels you, have you denied your own needs? If someone's anger makes you recoil, have you repressed your own? The people who drain you may be your shadow's messengers. So how do you stop the leaks? Jung offers tools, not band-aids. 1. Cultivate self-awareness. Track your emotional state after each interaction. Who leaves you depleted? What behaviors trigger that drain? Journaling helps. Your energy levels are a diagnostic tool. Don't ignore what your body is telling you. 2. Establish boundaries. Without guilt, a healthy psyche requires a strong ego, a clear sense of self. Learn to say no without apology. Recognize emotional overreach and stop it with phrases like, "I can't take that on right now. That doesn't work for me. Let me get back to you." These are shields, not swords. Use them with calm authority. 3. Develop energy management practices. Jung admired Eastern practices for their power to direct psychic energy. Meditate, rest, create, walk in nature. Surround yourself with people who give as much as they take. Choose environments that restore you. 4. Do your shadow work. Ask yourself, what do I most despise in others? What do I try hardest to hide? What emotions do I suppress? Don't just observe your shadow, integrate it. The more you own your complexity, the less others can unconsciously manipulate it. Wholeness doesn't mean being flawless. It means being complete. And when you reach toward wholeness, you become immune to unconscious energy theft. You'll see projection for what it is, and you'll start choosing relationships that exchange nourishment, not exhaustion. Energy depletion isn't a vague emotional complaint. It's a sign of unconscious dynamics trying to surface. Every draining relationship is a signal. When you ignore it, it repeats. When you investigate it, you evolve. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." If you want to stop feeling drained, stop outsourcing your awareness. Start looking inward. Ask yourself not only who's taking too much, but why you keep offering it. Heal the wounds. Set the boundaries. Reclaim your energy, because the people who truly see you won't drain you. They'll light you up.